Today, we're having this class on the Vimalakirti Sutra. Next week, we'll have the Vimalakirti Sutra class on Monday and Tuesday, if the schedule doesn't change. That should be said on Monday and Tuesdays. Every time before the class, I like to remind everyone to have the right mindfulness and to have the right motivation to listen to the Dharma. I don't want to mention this every time, but I think because nowadays people are so distracted, it is important to give you such reminders before classes. Therefore, without extremely important chores or things that you have to engage, I think it is important not to miss even one class. Our Lotus Sutra class, as well as Adornment of Mahayana Sutra class, are all finished, one within 2 years and the other within 4 years. So no matter what, I really hope that you should have patience and do not listen to your dualistic conceptual ideas, your deluded mind, because maybe your deluded mind is telling you not to listen to this class or not to attend this class. If you were to listen to your deluded mind, it may suggest you not to attend the class due to laziness. But really, when you think about it, for me, if I were to listen to my deluded mind, I would prefer not to teach this class either. It's like an oral examination for me as well. And everyone will place their eyes on me, and that will be the center of attention, and everyone's trying to find the mistakes that I've possibly said during the class. But having such class is really meaningful. I myself, my schedule is extremely full, but still I persist on having this class. I think I'm not sure what is the problem. I noticed the number is declining because people started attending the class but didn't really persevere. And there are people who only listen to the class whenever they remember. I think that's not the correct attitude. And you can probably watch your own mind and see which kind of listener, Dharma student are you. There are also students who constantly looking for excuses, saying that they're busy this day and busy on the other day. They have many excuses on not listening to the Dharma, not attending the Dharma classes. I think that's due to their lack of merit. Just like how Sakya Pandita used to say that for people who are foolish in this lifetime, they are foolish only because they didn't listen to Dharma in their previous lifetime. So you should not continue to be foolish. Now let's make the aspiration of
Kam chidam chewi chokder lazamba tramame batrabam chi de da landerke jim chego shamba ju jondan de julana me bayan da borzo ba shan chip da stia chig tokbra long tan na shamba de stia kung long tan shamba ndo chile sam ndo chil deba debe sam gonde maung be sam gonde tartar ji de la kang de bi ke an te zabago kang maung wa te no mashim bago tartar ji kiwa na nibagang mette ndartate chomdun de kipka tsara ndartar gerlong ta kyona skaji chig de kiego chugo gago chugo pu jungo pu jungo 咱们韩文当中这里有一点破我们中破是那个出生，然后中是再出生吧，可能再出现的意思。Stiva me palana ni perenjerwa jigbarte mertiva no longtan ba mete mertiva no ngomber zogberin sang vayang mayana jambate evjen te kiwe sam devjen nyeden gbe sam chirter longtan ba devjen merti mangarjang kiwre menjerwe ngabaragam manjerwa kan semjan tamjen devjen shobadan kan chu tamjen devjen shobanyed kan phagba tamjen devjen nyetan devjen nyetan tene jamba chuji yon devjen nyeto gate chuter tabar longtan nan semjan tamjen longtan ba yende ti jibjirjena devjen ni ji rapta shiwa mavshi de tadat rapta shiwa mayim bi shir de jamba chut Gunggatse Shanjim Gumber Zobra Santiavati, Simpson Tamji, Shanjim Gumber Super Santiav, Geroti, Jirjana, Simpson Tamjin, Jesus Toba Shanjusan, Yimbi, Shiro, Shamba Chodo, Gunggatse, Yonsam Yangan Debati, Simpson Tamji, Yonsam Yangan Debar and Geroti, Chief Shirjana, Simpson Tamji, Yonsam Yangan Lendava, Dejan Soba Yonsam Yan. Le mandate de Simpson Tamjin, the Shind Yonsam Yan, Lendesham Yan, Lendebar Ranjan, Tong Shiro, Shamba Tavina, Heaven, Durnam, Mamja, the Mafle, Shu, Shanchib, Lana, Sayang, Marni, Madok, Shambander Davian Dogba, Kunder, Tobastavate, and Dorta, Chishi, Shanchib, Lina, Mumber, Zober, and Santiago, Mayan. Semgijan Mayan of Shanchip and Sama Tamchit number Javago, Shanchip no Mugba Tamchit, you drooped up by Mepa War, Shanchip no Yellow Shiba Tamch, Java Mepa of Shanchip no Tower Jera Tamchi Yonsu Chipa of Shanchip no Yonsu Toba Tamchit on Jaro, Shanchip no Yoa down Simba down Scuba down Jaro. Shanchip no Monum Tamchit on Munjigba, Shanchip no Zamba Tamchit on Jarjan Machaba. Jigbago, Shanchibna, Chuji, Yandir, Nadir, Nebago, Shanchibna, Devjin, Jesus, Stobago, Shanchibna, Yandarba, Nikim, Talar, Nebago, Shanchibna, Yetan, Chu, Mepe, Nisan, Mebago, Shanchibna, Namka, Namyambim, Yambago, Shanchibna, Skivadan, Jigbadan, Nebadan, Jandan, Yerva, Mepe, Dimashi, Bago, Shanchibna, Simson Tamchi, Simdam, Shobadan, Sambayons, Shibago, Shanchibna. Namgi, Kimchi, the Namgi, Go Mayano, Shanchim, Navak Tamchi, Kim, Sam Joro, Yomon Badam, Jari, Mandri Bago, Shanchim, Nedan, Ne Mayan Badam, Jari, Yer Magnebi, Chogola, Magne Bago, Shanchim, Gunne, Mardanjan, Devjin, Yella, Magne Bago, Shanchim, Mantarte, Mante, Yoa Meto, Shanchim, Longadan, Tora Mepe, Lab Meto, Shanchim, and Tripa Mepe, Ranjingi, Yonsa, Tabago, Shanchim, Raptor Novate, one year number Tabago, Shanchim, and Zamba Mepa, the Tomuba. Mebago, Janjim, the Chu Tamjim, Yabani, Konda Chepe, Tatat Mebago, Janjim, Pe Tamba, Dam Jarve, Mebago, Janjim, Shinda Konda Chipper Kavi, Travago, Janjim, Namki, Ranjan, Nane, Betamchet, the song, Dena Ligi, some Semgi Mumber, Song, Sang, Yavra, Mani, Digi Virgina, Lina, Sadan, Shandan, Sigbadan, Lambda, Mugirdan, Sim, no Zigba. Mepa, Tanda Mepa, Mepa, number, Rigba Mepa, Go, Jordan de. Tambando, Shadning Kurti, Haven, Nibia Merchula Zopato, Darjan, Boba Mamchi Bertirde, Jondan de Tislat of Darkiva Tambati, True and Rejam Chever Metro War.
We'll continue with the fourth chapter of the Vimalakirti Sutra. I've given the introduction on the fourth chapter, which is going to be on the Bodhisattva's encounters with Vimalakirti. At first, the Buddha asked them to go and inquire about Vimalakirti's illness, but they don't want to go and they don't dare to go and inquire about his illness either. Well, we can see by now the disciples of the Buddha do not have such confidence to go visit Vimalakirti due to the differences of the realization between them and Vimalakirti. And now we're going to get into the 4th chapter, which talks about Vimalakirti's previous conversations among different bodhisattvas. Today's story will be on Maitreya. Maitreya will be the future Buddha. The manifestation between these two seems like Vimalakirti taught Maitreya. There are some commentaries and many discussions on whether Maitreya has a higher level of realization or does Vimalakirti. Maybe they're all manifesting, they're all pretending, and so that they can have such conversation. Maybe it is to emphasize on the state of realization of Vimalakirti. So there are many possibilities. Of course, there are other bodhisattvas where we could probably see the reason behind their conversation. But for Maitreya, it is a little bit different because this is his last birth and he will be reborn to be a Buddha. He will be one of the 5 greatest Buddhas. So if such a bodhisattva's state of realization cannot be compared to Vimalakirti, then it is quite inconceivable for us to see the state of realization of Vimalakirti. The stories of the disciples are rather easier to understand. However, when it gets to the Bodhisattva's chapter, lots of the teachings within this chapter are quite difficult to explain. And lots of the words are quite difficult to explain. Because the bodhisattvas are at the stage where they need to eradicate any of the characteristics or forms of the Dharma. So it could be a little bit difficult to understand. Therefore, I do think it is important to make comparisons and study from different commentaries so that you can have better understanding. The notes, the Chinese notes, are still continuing. So for those of you who cannot make notes as quick, you can refer, you can take those notes as reference. The masters and previous masters and the real Dharma students, they really spend lots of time, even after each class, they would go back and review it again and again. Rather than lots of our students over here, they would chant Amitabha at the end of a class and finally, feeling that finally it's over. Since we have evening classes, I think it's important not to eat too much for your dinner. Otherwise, you probably would feel a little bit drowsy in this class. And for some of you, for people who feel drowsy or tend to feel drowsy at night, I think it's the best not to eat not to eat dinner, or at least eat less during dinner, so that you could have a clear mind. I hope I'm not nagging too much. Most of the time, I feel that people are quite interested. Unless if I see one or two who are nodding of drowsiness, I would from time to time add a little bit of joke in between, so to wake them up, because they'll be waking up by people who surrounds them and laughing loud. They will wake up from that. Now let's get into the Bodhisattva chapter. The Buddha then, at this point, addressed Maitreya Bodhisattva and said that you should go inquire about Vimalakirti's illness, because all my greatest 10 disciples cannot even go and inquire about his illness. So why don't you go? As lots of you know, in the Han tradition, Maitreya is quite renowned. But I would like to make a distinction that the Maitreya we see in those Han tradition, there's a statue where they have a big belly. We call it Laughing Buddha, and that is not a Maitreya Buddha. Whenever you go visit any of the Han tradition temples, you probably would see them. That, although we call him Maitreya Buddha in Chinese, however, it is not Maitreya. You can think of him as a manifestation of Maitreya. In fact, he is from the 5 dynasties time, and he is called the Buddha monk, and later also called Laughing Buddha. You could still perceive him as the Maitreya Buddha. I'm not sure how Maitreya Buddha looks like in Han tradition, the real Maitreya Buddha, but in Tibetan tradition, the Maitreya Buddha would sit on a small seat. And it is quite popular in all the Tibetan monasteries or temples. You can see the statue of him in almost every monastery. Maitreya Buddha resides in Tushita heaven. Lots of the disciples and lots of masters who made the aspiration to be reborn in the Tushita heaven, so to listen to Maitreya Buddha's teaching. There were the story of Maitreya. There were 17 disciples who aspired to take refuge right in front of Buddha, and Maitreya was the only one who made the aspiration to become a Buddha. There were many different stories about Maitreya, including stated in the biography of Maitreya, as well as the 8 Bodhisattvas biography. There are many different stories of the different lifetimes of Maitreya Bodhisattva. According to the Han history, a Sangha went to Tushita heaven and received the Dharma from Bodhisattva Maitreya, and that is called the Five Treaties of Maitreya. And that was later then propagated in the human realm. Another story was that during the meditation of Asanga, in the sacred outlook, the pure vision, he perceived Maitreya Bodhisattva, and then Maitreya Bodhisattva taught him the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra. So one of the One of the description of Yogacara Bhumi-shastra is that it is written by a Sangha, but it is first taught by Maitreya. Anyhow, whomsoever hears the teachings from Maitreya, they will become the first disciples of Maitreya. In the Han tradition, it is said that Maitreya Buddha will be here very, very soon. In fact, I think it is not true. According to Master Jin Kong, it is said he said that he'll be reborn in the human realm in millions and billions of years. It's not going to be that fast. In our very limited mind, it is quite inconceivable to imagine such time. Maitreya in Tibetan is Xianba, and it means kindness, or taking the name of kindness, or from the family of kindness or compassion. From a sutra where it says that Maitreya made an aspiration that he would not take any meat, and that's how he was named Maitreya, because he practiced such kind action. Another story is that Maitreya practiced compassion and kindness for many lifetimes, and therefore he was named Maitreya. Whenever you hear the name Maitreya, you should give rise to, and another meaning is that whenever you hear the name of Maitreya, you will naturally give rise to compassion and kindness, and that's another meaning of his name. So we should supplicate Buddha and supplicate different bodhisattvas and masters, and listen to their teachings and give the instructions continuously. And then we should give rise to such compassionate mind. Whenever wrong view arises in yourself, you should supplicate to the three roots and the bodhisattvas. It really works. Don't think of it as some kind of ritual, some kind of form that doesn't work. Especially in 21st century, where we're so technologically advanced, we don't really have to follow those ancient rituals anymore. That is the wrong view. So I'd like to emphasize on this point. The Buddhists, I think we should combine Buddhism and technology and science. We should really avoid the kind of thinking where you may think I'm Buddhist, I'm a monk, I'm a nun, therefore I don't really have to study science anymore, technology anymore. Don't give up all these. At the same time, don't give up your own practice and your contemplation and study either. There's a book that is a compilation of many different scientific writings and technological writings, and the title is Search or Exploring the Truth of the Universe. I think it's quite important to collect lots of the articles which make comparison and correlation between Buddhism and science. Maybe I should not be too expensive about this. I don't want to be too fast at the end, otherwise I probably will make my interpreters sweat at the end of the lecture when I speed up. Maybe we've already finished about half of our class time. Let's see if we can finish it today. So at this point, the Buddha addressed the Maitreya Bodhisattva, saying that you should go inquire about Vimalakirti's illness. But Maitreya addressed the Buddha, saying that, well, world-honored one, dare not accept your instruction to inquire about his illness. Because once in the past I was explaining the practice of stage of irreversibility that's relating to the practice of forbearance for the heavenly kings of Tushita heaven, which, by the way, stage of irreversibility of the practice of forbearance is for bodhisattvas that's above the first bhumi of bodhisattvahood. Tushita heaven means contentment or full of joy. So at that time, Maitreya Bodhisattva was teaching this group of celestial beings that's from Tushita heaven. And Vimalakirti approached and said that, Maitreya, since the world-honored one has already bestowed on you and made the prediction that you will be then later achieve Anattara Samaya Sambodhi in a single lifetime. In the next life. So, what lifetime will you use to experience this prediction? Since you say that you can gain Anattara Samaya Sambodhi, gain such a prediction within one lifetime, then which lifetime are you talking about? Are you experiencing? Is it the prediction happens in the past, the future, or present? As we all know that Maitreya Bodhisattva will gain fruition of Buddhahood within one lifetime. In the very next lifetime, in fact. So, from the ultimate point of view, from the past, future, and present, and from the other point of view, that is ultimate point of view, which one is it? That was the question. But when we really look at it, the Dharma is neither truly existent nor truly empty. Yes, from the conventional point of view, it could appear in such a way. So Vimalakirti asked Maitreya, from conventional point of view, then from past, future, or present, if you say it's a past life, the past life already extinguished, just like yesterday already passed. The things that happened yesterday has already passed. You cannot get even a glimpse of it back anymore. If you say it's a future life, then the future life has not arrived. If you say it's a present life, then the present life is not abiding. There's no solid moment that is called present. So, according to the one of the Sutra, and then Vimalakirti quoted the Buddha and said that you are in the intermediate present born age and extinguished. Every moment every moment. It happens every moment. In Tibetan version, it has two other process that is just born, that is just dying. So in this moment, it's both born, both extinguishing, both as well as aging in this one moment. So of course you can, if you use the most subtle moment to analyze this whole process, then you will be able to see that none of these can be obtained. None of these process, so-called process, can be obtained. You cannot get the past, you cannot get the present, you cannot get the future. Just as the Diamond Sutra stated that you cannot have the past mind, the future mind, nor the present mind. What is the true ultimate truth? The truth of all dharmas is that nothing can be obtained. Over here it talks about the 3 times. The previous part that we talked about, it was from the aspect, was analyzed from the aspect of birth. And now we're going to talk about from the perspective of birthlessness. So if you experience this prediction with birthlessness, then how could it be possible? How could a birthlessness? Vimalakirti is like a ha ha ha. It's not like that. According to the picture of him, I think that's how he talks. With a long white beard. If you get such prediction with birthlessness, then birthlessness is the truth, is the truth of all dharma. Then within this state, how could you receive such prediction? Because there is nothing in there. Then how could you attain the Anudarak Samyak Samadhi? Then, Maitreya, how can you get the prediction of within one single time you will be able to achieve enlightenment? Although Maitreya is taking this last birth and will be reborn to be a Buddha, if people ask us in such a way, I think it would be still quite difficult to understand. Just this kind of analytical questions are quite difficult to answer, as it cannot be born, it cannot be birthless, it cannot be attained in the 3 times. Then how can you gain such enlightenment then? If you take Dharma as something that's solidly existing, then in any kind of situation you cannot obtain it. Bodhisattvahood or Buddhahood, the creations, they're just like how it is described in the Adi texts. They are clear, they are vivid, but empty. As stated by Mimpar Rinpoche in the commentary on the adornment of the Middle Way, it says that if all the things that may be known there were but one existing truly, no object of combination could we ever see. But since no knowledge object, no, not even one, has such a true existence, a bright, unbounded world of things appear as objects to be known. For such reason, everything are just like the mirror, just like the image in the mirror, just like the moon reflected from water. Through such a way, everything appears. This is quite statement, very important statement.
在这里就是这样的。然后唯从入生得数据，就是下面是它是
And now,
生和无生当中没办法得数据。
since you cannot get such a prediction in birth nor birthlessness, then
也是没办法的，就是从这个
how about generation and extinction aspect? Did you receive the prediction from generation of suchness or extinction of suchness? Over here, it is generation of suchness. Since no prediction can be predicted in terms of birth nor birthlessness, then his question is on how can you then get a prediction from generation or extinction of suchness? I think Maitreya must be embarrassed. And I think it's quite similar how some of our monastics do not dare to go approach some very eloquent lay practitioners where they could really ask quite sharp questions. I remembered the time when I went to Europe. 3 months before our arrival, there were people already started preparing sharp questions. And when we did arrive there and when those people asked us questions, I can see that sense of I can read their face. And when I can read those glares on their face, I do not really reply their questions very sincerely either, because they've been preparing for 3 months. So if I were to answer them sincerely, I think I would have felt into their plot. Therefore, from time to time, I would just give them a smile, and they would feel a little bit embarrassed about their scheming. Now Vimalakirti is saying that if you receive a prediction by the generation of suchness, then understanding that suchness is without generation, then how could you receive prediction of enlightenment? If you receive the prediction by extinction of suchness, then the understanding of suchness is without extinction. The suchness of all Dharma is the same. All sentient beings are entirely like such, and all Dharmas are also entirely such-like. The assembly of sages and wise minds are also such-like. Even you, Maitreya. So after he said that, what could Maitreya do? Suchness is neither generated nor extinguished, nor extincted. So he's saying that then all sentient beings have such kind of suchness that is neither generated nor extincted. Same as all the sages and same as you. But you must have made such a mistake of understanding this prediction. That's the question proposed by Vimalakirti. So over here, this is from the perspective of all sentient beings are of equanimity, are equally just as the Buddha. So then he said, if you receive the prediction of such Buddhahood, all sentient beings should also receive it. Because there is no thing saying that only Maitreya could receive such enlightenment, but none of other sentient beings could receive it.
就是那个如来藏呢，就是这个
Tathagata or the Buddha nature is all pervasive to all sentient beings. So from such a perspective, then how could Maitreya, you only receive such prediction but not the sentient beings? Then if Maitreya, you receive such prediction, all sentient beings should also receive it. All sentient beings could all become Buddha within one lifetime, and they could all become Buddha, then we'll have so many upcoming Buddhas. Why suchness is non-dual and non-differentiated? If Maitreya attains Anattara Samyak Sambodhi, then all sentient beings should also attain it. All sentient beings are the characteristic of Bodhi, and if Maitreya attains extinction, then all sentient beings should also attain extinctions. From over here, the perspective is from the perspective of Bodhi is no affliction is no other than Bodhi. The extinction is no other than Bodhi. Because the Buddha understands that all sentient beings are ultimately extinguished, which is the characteristic of nirvana that cannot be again be extinguished. When the Buddha understood the suchness, then the sign of nirvana and extinguish are exactly the same. There's no, it is not differentiated. All dharmas are just are no other than the Tathagata. That is according to the Sutra. So if they're ultimately already extinguished, how can they gain the characteristic of nirvana? I know that it could be difficult to understand from the words, but you should be able to analyze this teaching from the ultimate point of view. Why? Because if we use a conventional and false analysis, then the result we gain will be also conventional and false. If we were to build any kind of results on top of a water bubble, on top of an illusion, then how could that result be correct and be the ultimate result? Therefore, we have to analyze this from the ultimate point of view. Many people may disagree, saying that, well, maybe just from the conventional level that I've received a prediction, but ultimately there's no such thing as a prediction. Of course, that's a very easy way out. And that's, I think that answer could also be given by Maitreya. In fact, there's no such thing as ultimate, there's no such thing that is graspable. There's no dust speck of things that could be solid. So let's not to be so much attached to the things that happens in this world, to the external environment, and to the things that the objects that we grasp towards, and our own talents or our stature and so on. There's really nothing that could be grasped. That is the nature of all characteristics of, that is the characteristics of all Dharma. Just like when we look at this water bubble, it looks really beautiful, transparent, and it's pleasant to look at, but it will burst any moment, it will disappear any moment. It could be destroyed by different conditions, just as how children really like balloons. I remember that I saw children whose balloons are bursted and they would cry and they feel really sad. It's just like that. King Pasenadi and the Buddha had such a story. They had a conversation, and the Buddha asked King Pasenadi, saying that, when is the first time you saw the Ganges River? And King Pasenadi said, the first time was when I was 3 years old. So Buddha said, well, now you're 62 years old. How do you see the Ganges River? Is it the same? King Pasenadi said, yes, it is the same. And then he said, well, wait a minute, maybe not, because at that time I was really young. So when I saw the Ganges River, I was only 3 years old, but now I am already 62-year-old man. It has already changed from that perspective. The Buddha said, well, that's not true. Everything, in fact, are slowly all changing, not only you, but also the Ganges River. On the other hand, there is something, the ultimate nature of such things had never really changed. However, the continuity that appears does continue, does age, does change. Do not grasp onto the things that you hold on to so solidly. What do you perceive to be beautiful? What do you perceive to be delicious? All of those, in fact, all the sensory objects that touches your sensory capacities, then you would have such illusion. There are things that's beautiful and delicious and so on. Anyhow, at that time, Vimalakirti said that, Maitreya, do not fool these celestial beings with this teaching. Truly, there is no one who generates this intention to achieve Anattara Samyak Sambodhi. Don't fool anyone. There is no one who's retrogresses. I think Maitreya at first must be really happy, and then after the series of questions posed by Vimalakirti, at that time Maitreya couldn't say anything. Another commentary says that why Maitreya Bodhisattva taught or were teaching all these celestial beings from Tushita heaven is because Maitreya will be teaching in Tushita heaven, and the teaching of a stage of irreversibility are the teachings that they really want to hear. So it's Vimalakirti's way of breaking their attachments. Bodhi cannot be attained with body, and it cannot be attained with the mind. Vimalakirti then started his teaching. According to Utmost King of the Great Vehicle Sutra, it says that discerning the Bodhi conceptually is not called seeking the true Bodhi, it is the pursuit of realizing the Bodhi. One should be devoid of any concepts. Because whatever you see or not see, they're just like having an eye disease where you see things that don't really exist externally. But it's a manifestation of sickness or illness. Lots of our teachers over here, Dharma teachers, they really want to and really enjoy teaching the instructions on how to practice. But it is important to be able to teach on such profound teachings, although it may not be easy to teach. Another story of Manjushri and Shariputra. At the time, Manjushri was with Shariputra, and they were surrounded by 5 bhikshus, who are all Shravakas. After Manjushri taught on no coming and no going and no form, all of these profound teachings were not taken well by those Shravakas. They close their ears and don't want to listen to another word that Manjushri wanted to say. All these 500 bhikshus all were ready to go to leave Manjushri. And Manjushri then asked, why are you all leaving? And the 500 bhikshus said that we want to go to a place where there's no form of Manjushri, no sound of Manjushri. And Manjushri said that it is correct, that is good, because the so-called Manjushri's voice does not exist, and the so-called Manjushri, the form, does not exist. And then he continued to teach on such profound teachings on emptiness, on the ultimate truth, during which 400 bhikshus out of the 500 at that time all gained a certain level of realization and fruition. But the other 100 had very intense wrong view and anger, and they then were resulted to be born in hell realm. So Shripati said to Manjushri that, oh, Manjushri, maybe you shouldn't teach on such profound teaching. See how these 100 bhikshus now are all born in the hell realm. How very pitiful. But at that time, the Buddha approached and started saying to Shariputra, that is not correct, because although this 100 bhikshus had the wrong view and were resulted to be reborn in the hell realm, they immediately then reborn in the Tushita heaven and were able to be liberated. So although they, for a moment, were reborn in the hell realm, they finally get liberation really fast. And the Buddha then praised Manjushri for his skillful means. So at that time, Shupudi also followed the Buddha, praised Manjushri. From time to time, I myself, I do worry about how people would break their vows during my teachings during my time of teaching of Vajrayana teachings, and some people may have wrong views and so on. I do have lots of concern about it, but from time to time, when I think of such stories, I then would think to myself, maybe it is still good to teach unprofound teaching, so it would be benefit for them to be reborn or to gain liberation fast. The Vimalakirti then continued to say that Bodhi cannot be attained with the body and cannot be attained with the mind. There's the Sutra, according to the Sutra, at most a kind of a great vehicle, where it is said discerning the Bodhi conceptually is not called as seeking the true Bodhi. In pursuit of realizing the Bodhi, one should be devoid of any concept, because the Bodhi does not have a true form or true characteristic. This is why I encourage you to read more into or study more into the middle way teachings, so that you could understand this, so that people do not only be obsessed about the forms or characteristics and kept on saying Lama Chino to me whenever they see me. And I think yesterday we had a really good composures. Therefore, I think composures could be changed, and then your sense of devotion could go a long way, but slowly. Don't gush out all this devotion just like a flooding, and all of a sudden will disappear. This is not a good way of developing devotion. It is the best to have a little bit devotion and continue to develop on that devotion. So slowly and steadily, you will be able to have more and more devotions after 10 years and 20 years and 30 years and so on. It's important to be steady. It's important to have a sense of composure when you show such devotion. I think in terms of Buddhism, whenever you are hosting, being an MC, in terms of an MC, in an MC environment, it is important to keep a certain sense of Buddhism composure, because there are precepts according to the self-liberation precepts or vows. So, as you can see, that is said that a Bodhi cannot be attained with the body nor the mind. Later on, this part is not too difficult, so I'm just going to give very simple and not too extended explanation. In Tibetan version, there's no metaphor after. It doesn't have any metaphors. It just says because so and so. There is no such thing that's in the Tibetan version. But in the Chinese version, it is. In the Khmer Jiva's version, it is. Well, so the first one, extinction is a Bodhi because of extinction of characteristics, as stated in the Diamond Sutra, where it says that wherever are material characteristics, there is delusion. But whoever perceives that all characteristics are in fact no characteristics perceives the Tathagata. Once you perceive that all characteristics are in fact neither characteristics nor no characteristics, and that is to perceive the Tathagata. In the Tibetan version, it says that in the Sutra of jewel bestowing Bodhisattva's way of life, it says that fundamentally there is no characteristic of sentient beings, and all phenomena are devoid of intrinsic qualities. The grasping that there is characteristic of Bodhi is not the right view, but the delusion of sentient beings. And then no contemplation is Bodhi because it transcends the conditions, it transcends the one who can contemplate and to be contemplated, or the object to be contemplated. And it is a non-conceptualization is Bodhi because it is without recollection. We usually say that erudition and now erudition is a Bodhi because renouncing from views, any kind of views, the views of nihilism, the views of existentialism, and so on. Transcendence is a Bodhi because the transcendence of false concepts. Hindrances are Bodhi. We often say that hindrances are things that we try to avoid, but hindrances are over here are Bodhi because the hindrances of vows, of inspiration. Hindrances are already Bodhi because it transcends any kind of vows. This is from the point of view where this is from the ultimate point of view. Non-entry or non-involvement is Bodhi because the absence of lustful attachment. In Bodhi, how can you have any kind of attachment? So, non-involvement is real Bodhi. There's nothing to grasp onto. Accordance or compliance is Bodhi because accordance with suchness. But over here, accordance is not solid, is nothing could be grasped. Abiding is Bodhi. Abiding is to abide in the Dharma nature where it is inconceivable. To abide in the Dharma nature that is devoid of any characteristics. An approach is Bodhi because to approach to the other shore, that is Bodhi. Non-duality is Bodhi because of the transcendence of mind and the dharmas. It transcends the thoughts and thought objects.
法，那么这两个呢都已经远离了，或者说能取和索取呢都已经远离了。
the one to think and the things to be thought of.
为什么呢？因为这个菩提的话，它就是跟这个虚空完全都是等同。
Equanimity is Bodhi
没有阻碍，
because
没有任
universal
何的这个
sameness
相
with
貌。
space, or
那么
that
这个菩提的本体
equanimity
呢
with
就是
space,
没有
and
这样
just the same as the
无为是
space.
菩提，就是因为无为法呢
Unconditioned
真正
is
菩提
Bodhi.
本体无为法，原因是什么呢？
Why is
它
that?
就是没有
Because the
生住灭，
absence
它
of
就是无为法
generation,
就是没有
abiding,
生住
and
无为法就是
extinction.
生住灭的法相吧。这是菩
Because
提。
the conditional
那么
Dharma has
菩提的这
the
个智
generation, abiding,
了
and
知
extinction.
这种智慧呢，就是可以说是菩提。那么这是什么样的智呢？是这个了知众生的性和行为。
Then understanding or
它就
or
了
knowing is Bodhi
众生
because it is
所有
knowing
这个
the
知识。所以在这里的话呢，就是
all the
其实这个菩
knowledge
提呢
of
并不是
sentient
说完
beings
全
is
是一种
Bodhi.
淡空。在那个
So from this
我们
point
都
of
可
view,
能
we can
在
say
问
that
层当
Bodhi
中的
is
话呢，
not
就是这个
completely
了
just
了分明这个
nihilistic.
自信的光明呢，就是并没有
From the Shravakayana's teaching, there's
但是就像
no clear teaching on the luminosity or on the vividness of teachings, on the vividness of Buddhism
我们
teachings.
这个就本来是就是空性当中就没有什么所住的，但是当中
In
呢
emptiness,
就是
there is nothing
光
to
明的这个
abide,
妙义的
but
这种
there
性
is
所以
such
就是这个
wondrous
归根
manifestation
跟一
of
般的其他法呢也
luminosity
有
that
差
is
不
different.
会是菩提，诸入不会故，就是它这个
No,
不会呢
non-assemblage is
教会啊
Bodhi because
融会啊
non-assemblage of
因为它这
entrances.
里这个不会就是不教
Over
会不
here,
融会，为
non-assemblage
什么呢？
or
所有的这个诸
non-engagement
入呢，就
is
是不会
Bodhi
的
because
它这里这个入
the
呢，就是我们是二处，就是处，就是处的话呢，
the
六
entrances.
六跟
The entrances
六
over
是
here means
六
the
六
ayatanas
六
or
六金是那个杀二处嘛，它这里
realms,
处的意思就是，也就是说
the
无处是
12
菩提。
ayatanas.
那么为什么呢？就是因为这个出入
Why？
呢，就是不可能有这个包括内外内这个六处也好，外
Because
外六处啊
there's no
这些的话呢，
external
全部不会
six
去教
sensory
不会
objects
去
nor the
全部
internal
去接
six
触它就
sensory
这个无处的话呢
capacities.
不可能有，就是他们有这样的这种接触啊，就是不可能有。
So there's
那么
no
不
way
会
the
不会
sensory capacities
融合，不会
could
纠缠，这个是
be
为什么呢？因为
intertwined
远离了
with the
所有
sensory
的这个
objects
烦恼啊，
because
包
it
括它
will
的
be
这个
then
系列的
devoid
这
and
细节啊
transcends
这些都是
the
没有的
afflictions.
这个缘故
Just
其实这样解释的话
that
呢
is
也
why
是
the non-aggregation is Bodhi because it transcends the habitual patterns and devoid of afflictions. Non-locative or non-dwelling place is the Bodhi because it is formless.
没有性色，就如果有
Of
性
course,
色
the
呢
Bodhi
它
cannot
它
have
就不
any
是
kind
如
of
来的
color or
那么
forms.
加密是菩提
Otherwise, how could it be the
真正的
Tathagata?
菩提呢，它是一种加密，就是为什么呢？
And
因为这
the
个
real
名
Bodhi
名字的话呢，就是都是名和字呢
Are
就是全是
provisional
就是空
names because the
全是
names are
空
also empty.
那个六祖坛经当中也是讲
According
菩提本无树
to
明镜亦非天，是吧？
The
本来应
Platform
无
Sutra, where it says that Bodhi is fundamentally without any tree. The bright mirror is also not a stand. Fundamentally, there is not a single thing. How could any dust be attracted?
六祖也没有通达这样，
The
后来五祖呢
sixth
再次给他这个讲的
patriarch
时候呢，才
didn't
懂得了
initially understand such profound understanding of the nature of mind, but it is after the fifth patriarch instructed him, then he later gained such understanding, such insight.
没有色的缘故。
The activities of conversion of suchness are Bodhi because of non-existence of grasping and forsaking.
这种不符合实相的这种戏论呢，就是叫乱，就是。那么无乱是
The
菩提的，为什么呢？因为它的自信呢
turbulent is
常常
Bodhi
这个安静
because
清净
of permanent
山体是
composure
菩
and
提
tranquil
清净过，就是山体
serenity.
是山庙的这种静
Good
寂
serenity
超越
is
了
Bodhi
这个
because of the purity of nature. Such serenity has already surpassed the arhathood or the fruition of arhathood and so on. That is the Bodhi.
远离一切这个攀缘
Non-grasping is Bodhi because it has already transcended any kind of any forms of grasping onto objectified
为什么呢？就是诸法
mentation. Non-differentiation is Bodhi because the universal sameness or equanimity of the Dharma. Non-comparison is Bodhi because of the impossibility of analogy. It transcends any kind of analogy or metaphors, unlike any of our conventional objects that could have a sense of comparison or analysis or analogy. Sometimes we take space as an analogy to show the nature of mind, but it is only to rely on such analogy to see the nature of a mind. But the truth of nature of a mind cannot still be compared to the sky or space. The subtle is Bodhi because the difficulty of understanding the Dharmas. As we say that the Dharma is the subtle, profound, and devoid of any extremes. That is the Bodhi. That is the Dharma. We cannot attain Bodhi with a very distracted mind. So such Bodhi could only be attained through very subtle, through such subtlety. According to the Tibetan translation, there's another passage where it also has another passage where it says the Bodhi is just like space that is all-pervasive, and body is like grass, like wood, like a mirage, which shows that there is no way to grasp onto the solid body. And the mind is colorless, formless. No form, no symbol, nowhere to rely, and so on. There's such passage in the Tibetan version that is only included in the Tibetan text, which is not included in the English version, the Japanese version, nor the version according to the Zhiqian's version. Not sure how the Tibetan version has this extra passage, this extra paragraph. But according to the Sanskrit version, it is more close to the Xuanzangzi version. I think it is important that we do not distinguish that this version is the correct version, that version is the incorrect version. I think it is important to take it as that a few people are taking notes from the same master, but later on they may have a few differences, and later on it will be translated into different editions, different versions. Like Vimalakirti Sutra and Lotus Sutra, there's so many different versions. We cannot just rely on our dualistic mind and judge on ourselves that this is the correct version, that is the incorrect version. Just like a good master who may have a dozen of good disciples, and all of them are taking notes at the same time, but the versions or the writings could be very different. Just as during the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, when Shantideva was reciting this, many people were writing it down. He later on said that a certain version is more correct and a certain version is not correct. is more correct than the others. So the point is, you should take reference of all different versions, but do not just make such definitive judgment that this is the correct one, that is the incorrect one, and then start making changes on your own based on your own conceptualizations. So at that time, world-honored one, when Vimalakirti explained the Dharma, 200 gods achieved the forbearance of non-rising of Dharma. Therefore, I cannot accept your instruction to go inquire about his illness. And so Maitreya rejected such mission to go inquire about Vimalakirti's illness because he remembers such an embarrassing conversation between him and Vimalakirti. Not only the great disciples of Buddha, but the great Bodhisattva Maitreya couldn't really even reply Vimalakirti. That's why he cannot go and inquire about his illness. So we'll stop here today. We did finish.